Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our CTE State Advisory Committee meeting. It is 10 a.m. on Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Central Time. I am Harmony Little, Executive Director of Credentialing Strategies at KCTCS, and am pleased to be your chair. I'm going to start with doing a roll call, and apologies in advance if I'm not pronouncing somebody's name correctly. Alisher Birkenhoff.
Hey, good morning. I'm here.
Basta. She's here. Yeah. Wonderful. Heather Elder. Here too. Janae Allen. John Phillips. Marcus Rogers. Mark Martin.
Good morning.
Morning. Mike Hesketh. Mike Stone.
Here.
Pam Todd. Representative Bobby McCool. Senator Jimmy Higdon.
I am here.
Good morning, Senator. Senator Max Weiss. And Rachel Bellin.
Here, sorry.
Senator Weiss is here as well. Thank you. We got you on record. My apologies. I don't see the screen in front of me, but my colleagues are monitoring attendance. So if you joined after roll call, we'll capture you that way. Moving ahead, I'd like to introduce Interim Commissioner Robin Fields Kinney for some remarks.
Thank you so much, Chair. Welcome to everyone to the advisory meeting of today. Since the last time that I was with you, we've had some exciting events. Okay. We have hired our next commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Education. Dr. Robbie Fletcher will be joining us on July 1st as the new commissioner. And we are taking some time, even though he is finalizing his tenure as superintendent in Lawrence County, where he's been for about 10 years. He's a very busy person right now, but we are slowly starting our transition process to bring him to the department. We're very thankful for the confirmation by the Senate, who confirmed Dr. Fletcher as part of the process. It's a new process that has come to Kentucky, and we are very thankful for that, and we will have him join us on July 1st. Some of the other things that have been going on, I've had the pleasure of really traveling to lots of local school districts and see really career and technical education firsthand happening. It is exciting. It is performance-based learning at its finest. And I think that is certainly catching on in other areas of our school districts, but certainly career and tech ed kind of leads the way in that space. That's really what we want for all of our students. We want that opportunity for performance-based, for deeper learning, for vibrant learning experiences. And as part of that, the Kentucky United We Learn Council has been meeting regularly to move that vision forward. Kentucky United We Learn is an initiative that started out at a very grassroots level, asking Kentuckians from all walks of life what we want to see for the future of education in Kentucky. And we are now working hard on that vibrant learning experiences, looking at innovation from especially in the area of assessment, and then also really engaging our communities. And we know career and technical education does that so well. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from the experiences of career and technical education. I don't want to Senator Higdon has raised his hand. So I'm going to recognize Senator Higdon really quickly.
Before Commissioner Kenny gets away, I just want to commend her on her work as interim commissioner. She didn't seem like an interim. She was a true veteran and did some incredible work. And I just want to tell her and the folks on this committee meeting that what a wonderful job she's done and how appreciative I am of her work.
Thank you so much, Senator Higdon. Many of the legislators appreciate in sort of the last session how closely that we work together, kind of rekindling a lot of relationships with people. We want to make sure that all of our legislators know that the Department of Education is an available and valuable resource that can help them make really good informed decisions on behalf of our students and our staff in our local school districts. So thank you, Senator Higdon, very much for your remarks. I know you have a very busy agenda. I'm also really happy to see Bentley White here. I know he's on the agenda for today. Bentley is actually a part of our Kentucky United We Learn Council. And so it's great that we have students from the career and technical education space also on that. It's really important that we listen to our student voices. And I'm really pleased that he's going to be here presenting for you all today. So I'll stop there to see if anyone else has any questions, because I know you got a really busy agenda today. But thank you for letting me be here.
Oh, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, Interim Commissioner. Are there any questions before we move on? Well, thank you again for all your work. We appreciate it. Next, we are going to, I'm going to ask for approval of minutes from the May 2023 meeting. It's hard to believe that it was a long time ago that we met, but time has flown by. Meetings were shared with you, minutes were shared with you in advance of the meeting, but I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for those in favor. Please say aye.
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 And those opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. As Interim Commissioner stated, we have student Bentley White with us here today to give us some reflections of CTE. We're grateful that he's able to join us, and please take over.
Hello, it is nice to see you guys here. It's kind of interesting being on this side of the table today. So first off, I'm just going to go in an overview of where I'm kind of going to go in my presentation. So first I'm going to outline KSD, the Kentucky School for the Deaf, what we have for CTE, and then I'm going to go on about how that has impacted me and other students at KSD. So right now I'm using my voice, but I'm going to switch to using ASL the next few minutes of my speech.
So KSD really has 3 programs under CTE. The first one is agricultural science. The second is advanced mechanics. And the third is manufacturing. Oh, excuse me, manufacturing, educational tech, or engineering technology. So in the Ag Education Department, we have 3 primary focuses, so 3 pathways. They are professional sciences, plant sciences, animal sciences, and ag power. This fall, we started to have a new program, specifically a new pathway in that program, and that is food sciences and operations, processing. We have advanced manufacturing in one department. And then we also have, now please understand that that particular pathway, the 3 pathways that I mentioned previously, we have furniture tech, wood finishing, and wood production mechanics. The third pathway that we have is new, and it will be starting this fall, and that's that engineering technology piece. So we will have 2 pathways under the engineering technology portion, and will be automatic engineering, automation, excuse me, and then UAV and avionics. We have CTSOs underneath each of those programs. We have FFA, of course, under the Ag program. We have a Skills USA program under the furniture technology. And then we also have started this fall, we're going to be having a TSA Technological Student Association. So a little bit about who I am and my standing. I am in my 3rd year in the FFA. I have been an officer since my sophomore year. I was a reporter, and then last year and this year I am a 2-term president. So what will happen next year is anyone's guess. So for Skills USA, KSD had that previously, but it is restructuring again. So November 29th, we just reestablished that chapter. And then for the TSA organization, that will be beginning this fall, and that will be focused for the students in that particular pathway. CTE has had an impact on me in a variety of ways, and other students at KSD as well. CTE is for students who may not be going to college or may, yes, be going to college, but it's a different path. And either it will help them develop experiences as a group and for all of the students. It really has an impact on how successful you are when you leave high school, because your high school career is very limited. It's only 4 years long. But high school can prepare you for what may happen post-graduation and what you're going to do with your post-graduation. If you're going directly into the workforce, or if you're going to be working and going to college simultaneously. There's a variety of perspectives on how someone's life may progress. CTE really helps students find themselves and how they want to establish their roots, and how that can connect to their history as well, or their previous experiences in their community, in their region, in their locality, in a variety of different ways. CTE is embedded and grounded in the student, right? This KSD, for example, uses CTE extensively. We use it actually in KSD's history. So KSD is over 200 years old. And CTE, however you look at it, was part of KSD from the very inception. And students ran their own farm on campus. Students had raised cows. They had their own plant business. And KSD was a fully self-sustaining organization, and CTE was embedded in that self-sustainability. And so this has been how KSD has functioned for over 200 years. CTE officially began at KSD in about 20 years ago, so relatively recently. And no matter how the class progresses, CTE and the concept of CTE was part of KSD from the beginning. They ran their own newspaper. They ran their own engineering technology. The students made their own beds, they made their own furniture for the school, and they sold everything and ran everything through a CTE framework. The students were taught how to take care of themselves so that when they graduated KSD and left, they were able to do so. KSD is still maintaining that history. I feel like the important part of CTE, I think it's essential that we connect it to the historical framework, because COVID had a huge impact on CTE students and staff and all involved in our school community. For example, KSD has a greenhouse on campus, and this is the first year that we have been able to open and operate it to its full capacity since COVID, with no restrictions whatsoever. But we're still trying to regain some of those roots and some of that grounding that we had, because for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had to make huge transitions in the world, right? There's been huge changes in technology and information, new concepts, new best practices. So now we have to adapt, but we don't have any experience with adapting over the last 4 years because we didn't do that. No one did that. And with COVID and the new technology and the new research and the new engineering, we've never really been able to re-implement the new technologies and the new concepts, mostly because there was a lot of people were tired of doing something new, and so people just wanted to do what they could do. And so there are pros and cons to this, right? It's a double-edged sword. We really were impacted in a negative way via COVID, but we also had some positive outcomes as well. But it has been very difficult to remediate and to catch up to where we should be had COVID not happened. And everyone is trying their best. But KSD FFA and the whole CTE department has new passion, and there's new initiatives to rebuild and to grow and have a virtual rebirth. And that way we can how we can better adapt to how we can best serve our community and serve the school and serve the whole state. KSD is a very unique school in that we serve students from the entire Commonwealth, from Western Kentucky, and students who have a 6-hour drive to get to campus, to the other side of the state as well. And we're serving those students who are still grounded and still embedded in their own community. And through the CTE program, we can best serve all of these students. I feel like I have more that I should add to this, but I also feel like what I've shared is sufficient. So does anyone have any questions? Please ask me questions.
Are there any questions?
Bentley, I'd like to know, we had the pleasure of visiting KSD, I guess back in maybe March, April, and it was a pleasure to be there. But can you tell us, what do you hope to do when you graduate? What are your plans?
So in the fall, I'm going to be starting at Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. It's the only deaf university in the world. And from there, I'm going to be getting a government affairs degree. And then I may be going to law school post undergrad, or maybe go into teaching, or maybe both. I can really see myself going into civil service in some fashion or another. And I really feel like because of CTE and FFA, it's molded my desire for civil service to help other people and to help the deaf community and the more general community at the same time.
Thank you so much. And Deputy Secretary Brindley has her hand raised.
Good afternoon, Bentley, and I'm so impressed by your presentation and the direction that your career is going. Looking forward to seeing what you, where you go and what you do in your career. I have a specific question. We are working in the Department of Workforce Development on a state digital equity plan, and part of that includes making sure that we provide the appropriate supports for young people with hearing loss and deafness. And I wanted to know if you have any insights or suggestions for us as we implement our plan.
So if you don't mind backing up just slightly, the plan itself is to do what?
So
what is the goal?
yeah, happy to provide that information. So the Commonwealth has received $1.1 billion to improve access to internet all across the Commonwealth. And the digital equity plan is intended to help what we call covered populations, one of which is individuals with disabilities with affordable access to internet and devices, digital literacy skills, cybersecurity, and the development of digital skills that would help individuals meet their personal and professional goals. So I would just love your insights as an individual with the deaf and hearing loss community, insights that we should consider as we implement our strategies of increasing digital equity in Kentucky.
Really, I would like to mention that you've probably heard this over and over, to be honest. But the one word is access for me, that whatever people need to do better, you would do better to provide it. For example, deaf people have different internet needs depending on which services they use. Some might use VoIP, so voice over internet protocols. More common, that's more standard for people because they're using their video phones. And those require a higher speed of internet to be effective. Mm-hmm. And so that's a very simple example, but not all people in rural areas are able to have access to high-speed internet. But you still need that to be able to communicate and to be able to communicate with people in your surroundings. So if you could just listen to those who are trying to advocate or support these goals, and sometimes what you hear might seem like one of the most basic things, but you may never have thought of it. But it is something that you might be able to do with a click of a button. That's one thing I just want to throw out there, is that it's really important to just listen.
Thank you very much. And we've had the good fortune of doing some listening tours, but maybe we'll follow up with you and see if we can't do something on your campus directly, if you're open to that partnership.
That would be something we would need to go through administration for.
Sure.
But of course, I would be happy and open to that idea.
Thank you.
Also, I'm not sure who would be the person, like who would facilitate this particular committee meeting. But if you want to share my contact information via email, there was somebody I was emailing with, I forget who it was, But if you want to send out contact information, if you have any questions, ideas, or concepts that come up, feel free to ask me or follow up with me later.
Thank you very much, Bentley.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it, Bentley. Best wishes to you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bentley.
Thank you. All right, that will be a tough act to follow. But next we have the Career and Technical Education Youth Participation Action Research.
All right, that would be us. I want to ask first, would it be possible for us to screen share a slideshow that we have prepared, or would that not be possible over Teams?
Is it possible for them to share a slideshow on Teams? Yep, you can just hit the share button and we should be able to see it.
All right, I will do that right now.
And we see it. Thank you so much.
All right, perfect. So hello everyone, my name is Ari Vimani Shavastava, but I also just go by Ari. I'm the development partner and I'm helping lead some youth participatory action research at the Kentucky Student Voice team. And so we'll dive a little bit more into what youth participatory action research is and how we're doing it with career and technical education. But I first just want to let everyone that's here with me on the call introduce themselves first. So. Pass it off to, I guess, Kaylee first. I know Kaylee is on the call, if you can unmute.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Hicks. I'm from the Academies of Tates Creek High School, and I'm in the teaching and learning here, and I've been working with Ari on this.
All right, wonderful. And I think we were supposed to have two other student presenters, but of course, I'm sure as y'all are well aware, it's the end of the school year, and we just ran into some last minute technical difficulties with being able to pull them out of class, but I'll just be filling in for them. So I just want to first introduce who the Kentucky Student Voice team is and give you a little bit of background on why we're helping lead this work. So we're a student voice advocacy organization based right here out of Kentucky, and we consist of around 100 or so at any given time, self-selected students from across the state of Kentucky. And what we're really focused on is promoting student voice and having students as co-decision makers in their education and co-creators. And so we try to embody that through all of our work through this mission statement, which is we are young people co-creating more just, democratic Kentucky schools and communities as research, policy, and storytelling partners. And that research, policy, and storytelling angle is really how we seek to amplify and elevate student voice across the state. We have done it through research that we did, through research studies we present, such as ones about the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on students and students' learning. We've done it through advocating for policies that are widely supported by students across the state. And we've done it by uplifting student voice through storytelling and journalism, which we've done by publishing in newspapers across the state and country and by launching our own independent newsroom. But I'm going to be focusing, and we're all going to be focusing on the research arm specifically today. And so we've been working with Fayette County Public Schools and specifically students at Bryan Station, Frederick Douglass, and Tates Creek to work on a project that is aiming to uncover how students are feeling and performing in their career and technical education pathways. And so there's really two main purposes to this project, which was A, to lead a research study in Fayette County on the present and future of CTE and use the findings from that to tackle CTE education policy and hopefully affect change with it. And then at the same time, to pilot a curriculum for teaching students how to conduct this research, because really, when we say by and for students, we also want students to be teaching students. And so it's myself and my colleague Connor. We're both recent Kentucky high school graduates, and we've been the ones helping to teach the students and connect them with the resources to be able to conduct this work. And so I've already talked through this, but we really have these 3 school research teams, and we combine this with our youth participatory action and research expertise. We've been doing this work for 10 years. We've conducted numerous climate audits, and we've mentored hundreds of students across the state on how to do this work. And this is all leading to this action research study. And just in terms of the stakeholders that are involved in this work, we're working with Advanced CTE, a national CTE nonprofit, the KDE, of course, and ourselves to complete this research. And we're, like I've said, going to hopefully be using this to create, to be able to inform policy recommendations for state education leaders, but also at the same time, develop that curriculum for helping facilitate work like this across the state of Kentucky. And so that we really have 4 stages. We first had the project ideation. We've then developed surveys and interviews. And right now, where we're at is we're actively collecting data with the surveys and interviews we've created, and we're sharing out the result. We'll hopefully be sharing out the results, or I won't, hopefully the students will be the ones sharing out the results. But with that, I'm gonna get a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of what this research has actually looked like. And so this is where our students would be filling in right now, but I will be filling in for a couple of our students that couldn't make it on today. So our research study comprises of 2 primary parts. There's a student-created survey and a student-led interview, all driven by a single question, which we will touch on soon. The survey is being distributed to students across all 3 schools, and the interviews are being actively conducted too. And so throughout the process, we made sure to tailor our questions and their formatting to the specific needs for each. So for survey questions, we made sure to make each question follow a similar scale and verbal label, made the questions broadly applicable to all students since the survey is being distributed across the entire school. And we want to ensure that the questions are specific enough while also being able to give us meaningful data. We've ensured that they use affirmative language that doesn't immediately create a negative or create some sort of opinion in people's heads when answering the questions. And we also made sure that the questions are consistent across all parts of the survey to make the data easier to interpret and compare. And then surveys obviously help you capture a broader picture, but interviews allow us to see more into students and CTE learners' personal lives and experiences. So we tailored our question design for interviews to take advantage of this. We made them open-ended to foster conversation between student interviewers and interviewees so that they can share more about their individual experiences. We made sure, again, to avoid leading language that would cause people to answer a certain way. And probably the most important thing is we want to make all of our interviews personal, but also make them private. That involves keeping students anonymous and also just ensuring that we're always having students share only what they want to share. And so the driving question behind this entire research study has been, what are students' current experiences in career and technical education academies at Fayette County Public Schools? This ended up being specific enough to allow for the project to have some scope, but still broad enough that we were able to give ourselves a lot of room to figure out the exact questions and themes that the students wanted to talk about. And so from that main research question, we've worked with the students to start developing survey and interview questions. Like I've said, figuring out what parts of the CTE experience felt most important to research to the students right now. And in no special order, the themes that the students settled on were first, certifications and their effects on the future. So asking students whether they feel like the outcomes that come with their CTE pathways, like certifications, are going to be meaningful for their career and continued education beyond high school, and how meaningful and how impactful they have been. Preparation for career and life post-grad explores whether students believe that their education has made them ready and able to go directly into a career. CTE integration, information, and access asks students whether they feel informed about their CTE options and the reasons for CTE existing in the first place. And then lastly, we have peer, teacher, and school support in CTE, which tries to figure out whether students feel supported by their school and if there is enough support to make their CTE pathway the best that it possibly can be, which is, of course, what we all want to be doing. So these themes help organize a lot of the thinking around the questions we wanted to ask, and we expect them to be useful for helping to put together our results once the data has been collected. Now I'm going to pass it off to one of our students who was able to make it today, Kaylee, who will walk you through a little bit, looking a little bit deeper into the research study.
Okay, so by this, for looking deeper into the project, we first started creating surveys to collect quantitative data. And then to structure our survey, we wanted to focus on getting numbers from our data to analyze later on. To do this, we set up the survey starting broad, large, easy questions to answer about the students' CTE experiences. These ended up being questions with answers simple as 1 through 5, or strongly disagree to strongly agree, for different statements about their CTE pathways at our schools. From there, we wanted to introduce questions that we thought were harder to answer and required some more thought. These included questions, but also some open-ended response around individual student experiences in the programs and the problems that the students are facing within. After this point, we asked a couple of demographic questions to make sure there isn't one group in particular who seem to be having a dramatically different experience in the CTE pathway over the others. And then, now that the survey has been made, we are in the process of distributing it to our school and collecting data over the next week. Some of the questions that we are asking have included if you understand the opportunities, like the job pathways, the internships, pathway events, etc., that your certification provides you. What initially interested you in your current pathway. All academies at my school are supported by our administration, and my pathway has adequately prepared me to pursue a career or further education in my pathway subject. And all these themes have fallen into what Ari has mentioned earlier and go across the survey. And we hope to receive more responses fully collected and analyzed all this data by the end of this month. And then interviews are getting big right now. While we have been distributing the past few weeks, we have now been taking time to talk in person to students who have different feelings and who may have not done the survey on their own experience to the CTE pathways. To do this, we're using a general set of questions that we had made together as a team, and then making them informal and it uses us to ask our connections to talk to various different people from different pathways and different groups.
So to actually conduct the interviews, we needed a protocol to do so. And so the slide shows some of the parts of the interview that we've delivered to the students. And so I won't read all of them off, but you can see that these things include very basic things that you want to have, not just with an interviewer, but any person, like respect, trust, and honesty. And we've kind of had this pyramid structure that helps to build up to all of these different aspects that lead us to having good interview data. And so students practiced all these building blocks by conducting some demo interviews in their schools with their friends to see what the results were and get a feeling for how to sit down with someone and how to hold a full interview, because obviously that's not a skill that comes naturally to, I think, anyone. So after doing the demo interviews, the students started to collaborate to create a set of interview questions. So they first did this by writing a bunch of questions independently, and then Connor and I facilitated some critiquing, revising, and reviewing of each of the questions and of each other until we landed on a few that all of the students liked and they thought wouldn't take too long to complete, but also thought would help give us meaningful data that would be valuable to policymakers, to fellow students, to school administrators, to teachers, to all of the stakeholders involved in career technical education. And so we're currently in the middle of running the interviews right now, so we can't give you any quotes from other students like we'd really like to, but we'll hopefully have those results in the coming months. But we expect to have around 30 interviews completed and annotated by the end of the semester. And what you see on this slide are just a couple of the questions that we came up with. These include, how well do you feel that your teachers have integrated CTE curriculum materials into your core classes like reading and math? What other opportunities would you like to see added to the CTE program you are currently in? And how could your school better support you in succeeding in your CTE program? And so with all this, what comes next for us is that we're, like I've said multiple times, we're still currently collecting the data using both surveys and interviews. And so after we have that data, we're going to need to analyze the results to graph out and interpret what the data says and draw some conclusions about, from that, draw some conclusions about the current state of career and technical education in Fayette County. And once we know that, we hope to share out the results and put it together in some sort of report and some presentations, a lot like the one that we're giving to you today, just with some data and some results to go with it, showing off what we did and what the students did, and most importantly, what the students learned from the research that can be applicable to career and technical education programs in Fayette County and across the state. And so that is all we have from us. I have just mine, Connor's, and Amanda are contact at FCPS's email up here on the screen as contacts, and I'll open the floor now to any questions from anyone on the council who would be interested.
Thank you, Ari and Kaylee. Are there any questions?
Yes, Amy Hodge has her hand raised.
Excellent. So obviously, as a very proud member of the project team from Advanced CTE, I could not be more thrilled to see this and to have the opportunity to attend and see Kaylee and Ari do such a fantastic job presenting. I was just wondering, Kaylee, do you have any other impressions of like what this was like for you, or just other reflections on this work, or other thoughts that may have bubbled up as you've been doing your survey development?
So for us here, we had to take a little more time of how we distribute our survey, because at our school, it is a little more difficult to get out our survey. So as a team, me and my other team members who aren't with me right now, we took by putting our survey on our school news that we do every morning. We emailed it to our teachers, but not only our teachers, our CTE pathway teachers to use in their classes. And that has really helped our survey, and also personalizing points in our survey that are special to Tate's Creek, so the kids do feel it is a personal survey, and that has really helped get more responses for them.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I know that we want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to be with us. It's been a joy working with them. And of course, we're still not finished with this. And we're so pleased too that we've got representatives from Advanced Ed with us that are working in this project. And so thank you all so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Yes, I want to echo Dr. Hargis' comments. I said that was the previous presenter was going to be a tough act to follow, but you all rose to the occasion and did an amazing job. Thank you so much, both Ari and Kaylee. We would love to get an update from you all since you're still ongoing with the survey. So we'll talk about when and if an appropriate time is for you to come back and give us an update, because this is really worthwhile information that we're all interested in. So thank you for your time and for your presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies. Next, we're going to move on to the Office of Career and Technical Education staffing updates from Dr. Hargis.
And this is wonderful. I get to follow the hard acts. So good morning again, and thank you, Harmony. It was a joy to hear both from Bentley and from the team. That really puts into perspective what CTE is all about. And so I'd like to let you know about some new staff people that we have on board with us. The first is Colonel Tim McDonald. He is our JROTC, Director of Army Instruction. And Mr. Thompson will be telling you a little bit more about that initiative coming up. We have also added Angela Rush as a Business and Marketing Program Consultant. Kristen Wright, and Kristen hasn't actually started with us yet, but she will be joining our team as Agriculture Education Program Consultant. John Pace started actually last fall, so he's not really new, but he's new to this group. He is serving as our Career Advising Consultant, and Camille Overstreet as Educators Rising Advisor. And Camille is actually not in our office. She actually works for the Office of Educator and Licensure and Effectiveness, but she serves as the state director. We've also had a couple of position changes with the retirement of Larry Garrity. Beth Engel moved over into the division director position. And then Kathy Hain is the one that moved from our business consultant into Beth's position, which is the branch manager. And right now, we had a retirement of Tom Welshans in manufacturing. And so we are currently looking for a manufacturing program consultant. Okay. All right, and so I'll transition over then into the state of CTE, as I like to call it. Okay, so most recently, in 2022-23, that's the latest school year for which we have data, and it shows that CTE is trending in a very positive way. 82% of students participated in CTE, and so to put this into perspective, in 2022-23, there were almost 200,000 Kentucky students in grades 9 through 12, and almost 170 of them participated in at least one course in career and technical education. And this is an 11% increase over the prior school years, and so we attribute that growth to the awareness of all of the early post-secondary opportunities that we provide, or that CTE provides, and the expansion of early CTE exposure in the elementary and middle grades. And really just to the buy-in that districts have in believing not only that CTE works, but that it is for all students. Those that are going to college, I'm sorry? Okay. For those that are going directly into the workforce, and for those that are matriculating to colleges and universities. And so as you can see, over 25,000 graduated high school with at least one post-secondary credential. 54% of CTE students attained concentrator status, and that concentrator status indicates that they have taken at least 2 credits or 2 course credits in the pathway successfully. And out of those concentrator students, 98% of those students graduated, which is above actually the state graduation rate for Kentucky, which is impressive. Mm-hmm. Data from KY Stats indicates that CTE completers are more likely to find employment and have higher average wages 5 years out from graduation. So taking their CTE experiences to the next level, we had over 63,000 students gain a valuable leadership skills and opportunities by participating in one of our career and technical student organizations, or CTSOs. Over the past couple of years, we have really been pushing the 12 elements of high quality CTE. The Association of Career and Technical Education, so this is at the national level, developed an evidence-based framework which defines high quality CTE for the country. They communicate, and we hold firmly that these indicators mirror trends in successful CTE programs. And they still provide a broad array of tactics for implementing high quality CTE programs of study. The diversity of scope and structure among frameworks sets the stage for conversations to establish both clarity and consistency related to the high quality CTE, and particularly how that relates to individual local programs. Our office, the OCTE, has provided professional training on implementation of these indicators to administrators, instructors throughout the state, and at last year's CTE Summer Conference, it focused on those 12 elements, and we had over 1,800 attendees. We're looking forward to this summer's conference and still promoting those indicators, and it's still a priority for our office, and we will continue to communicate these. All right, next, each state-approved CTE pathway is designed to provide a foundation at the secondary level. So remember, we're doing our exploration at the elementary and middle, but we're doing the foundational classes at the high school level, and it provides a seamless transition to post-secondary education. Each CTE pathway has a model secondary to post-secondary alignment. And at the high school level, the districts will select 4 technical courses that follow an approved course sequence. And these courses are aligned with general education courses, and some of them even qualify as interdisciplinary courses so that they can count for both CTE and on the academic side. State CTE academic and employability skill standards are embedded throughout the 4 courses in a student's pathway, and each state approved pathway must provide a number of early post-secondary opportunities, such as work-based learning, the opportunity to pass an end of program assessment or obtain an industry certification. And those end of program assessments actually bring along with them an opportunity for articulated credit. And then we also have the CTE dual credit. And so finally, our last bit of current CTE data is career readiness by the numbers. So as you can see from the chart, during the 22-23 school year, we had 646 students successfully complete a KBE approved co-op or internship. At the bottom left, you'll see 349 received a track certification in a registered apprenticeship. 18,377 on the right-hand side passed an end of program assessment, which again provided the availability for articulated credit, and 18,952 earned a valid industry certification. Most impressively, however, is over 24,000 students earned CTE dual credit. We're excited that that number has grown, and we expect it to continue to do so. So I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. Okay, thank you.
Impressive report. We'll move on to Tom Thompson to his readiness updates, career and readiness updates, I should say.
So good morning. Just as a reminder, this is for my division, which is for student transition and career readiness. In my division, we have all of the program area consultants for each of the CTE programs, and also the state level advisors for career and technical student organizations. Also in that division, we house the FFA Leadership Training Center. So I want to give a little update on that. And last spring, the update was that we had 5 new renovations of our cabins. And this year, I'm proud to say that we are in the middle of renovating 10 more of those. Wow. Meaning that all of the 10 original buildings will be completely remodeled, and that will bring us to 22 cabins because we had 2 built, I think about 3 years ago, 4 years ago. We also received another $500,000 this year in the budget to renovate those last 5. All the cabins will receive all new metal roofs, and that includes the 2. So the 22 cabins will have all new metal roofs. We're having a horrible time with wind just blowing the shingles off of them. We keep replacing. So we're going to try the metal. All of the cabins will have renovated HVAC, new mattresses, new interiors and exteriors. And if you're familiar with the camp, originally we didn't have heating and air in the cabin. So this is new. And with this and the new activity center, it's our hope that it'll be a 24/7 facility. So we can use it 365 days a year. We do use it some in the winter, but it's not near as much as we do, of course, with the camps in the summer. Additionally, we have added another, the General Assembly was gracious enough to add another $1 million to complete the Rising Sun Center. We felt like we were going to have to cut back on some of the things that we wanted to have in that, so they added to the additional, or they added to it to make it $7 million. It was originally $6 million. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to get all the bells and whistles and all the things that we wanted inside and outside, because we were going to have to cut some of those spaces on the outside, like meeting spaces and things, and just comfort areas that we felt like were really important to bring the whole campus into almost like it was a inside of a building, but not. I don't know how to explain that, but it's kind of like a park around that building when we get done with it. And it was kind of sad that we were thinking we're going to have to cut some of that stuff. Campus-wide safety upgrades, all the lighting, we're redoing the lighting out there and making sure that it's safe at night for folks, trimming back shrubs, a new gate, badging systems. The gate will be a badge system too, intercom system with that. So that'll be pretty nice upgrades and safety for our students. Donation of a $10,000 propane rotisserie gas grill from Miles LP in Owensboro. I'm not endorsing them, but it's fact that they donated that. And I don't know, I can't remember the brand of the grill, but it is like a Ferris wheel of meat. It is amazing. You just got to see it. I can't even explain. Well, I mean, you can tell by the price tag, but still, it is just amazing. And then all of the career and technical student organizations at the state level here will have some type of camp there or activity there. So the facility is being used more than just the one student organization. It really truly is a KDE facility that is open to more than just traditionally what you'd think of it as. A little update on the end of program assessment. So all of the EOP assessments are associated with at least one articulation agreement with post-secondary partners and to be available for testing. The EOP assessment is a measure of the post-secondary readiness for Kentucky's state accountability system, post-secondary credential for federal Perkins accountability. This year we saw about a 3% increase in EOP pass rate, and typically we run just over 30,000 students tested. So we're tickled to see that there was an increase in that. During the 2023 or 23-24 school year, a new focus lock feature was activated, which basically locks down the browser to the point, like if they try to open something else, it will give them a warning. And if they continue to try to open something else, it may kick them out of the test or lock them out of the test, just to keep them from trying to look up answers to some of the assessments. The TRAC, which is the Tech Ready Apprentices for Careers in Kentucky Pre-Apprenticeship Assessment. We just finished up, and I've got these results this morning. We trended down about 3% on that, but I do want to point out that the welding assessment, this is only the second year of it, and it's a pretty tough assessment. So overall, 3% is probably not that bad. And I don't have it broken down by those others, but I felt like one of those went up, and one of them stayed about the same, and then this pulled us down a little bit in it. But overall, we're tickled with the results from that. Perkins State Plan update. OCTE hosted a state-level Perkins Steering Committee to review and provide guidance and feedback on the state plan. That's all kinds of stakeholders from all regions and career fields all over the state. We did a 30-day public comment period. The main things that changed from the previous plan, which was implemented in 2020, was the secondary post-secondary split is now at 62 to 38%. All post-secondary, well, any program can count toward the calculation of that. And there's the 600 plus clock hour certification programs. I'm sorry, I got tongue tied there. And then the new 4-year performance indicators have been updated. And now the plan has been submitted to the U.S. Department of Education and approved. So Dr. Hargis mentioned a little bit about the DAI, or Director of Army Instruction, for the JRTC program. So we've partnered with the U.S. Army. They'll be paying for half of the salaries for 6 employees for the DAI, and then General Assembly also has thrown in $623,900 for 24-25, and then $6,540,000 for 25-26 to cover those salaries. And those positions will be the DAI, which right now we do have that person in place. Dr. Hargis mentioned Colonel McDonald, operations personnel, 2 assistant directors of Army Instruction, and we're hoping to house them east and west, and we're still looking for our locations on that. And then 2 military property specialists, because JRTC has a lot of like drone equipment, engineering type equipment that they use in their programs, but they also share with the other programs in the schools. And then the clothing and the flags and all the things that make the program run have to be housed somewhere and then distributed. So that's what those bottom 4 folks will be doing. And also checking the quality of the programs. So this will improve the oversight, property accountability, logistics, acquisition process, It'll assist schools in recruiting and selecting the right personnel for those, and then it'll serve as the brigade's point of contact for classroom instruction, operations, and coordination in general across the state.
And Tom, if I could just jump in just for a second, and this is a national pilot, and this is the first one. So Kentucky, we're at the forefront again, leading the way in this. And so we are very excited. This can bring a lot of good marketing and public relations to Kentucky. So we are very excited.
Thank you. The next slide is just an update on our student organizations and where we fall on that. So DECA has completed their state and national conferences. Of course, Education Rising, FCCLA, HOSA, FBLA, Skills USA, TSA will all be doing their national. They finished their state doing their nationals toward the end of June, and then FFA will have theirs at the 1st of June, and then it won't be until later in the year, October, before they do their nationals in Indianapolis. So we've had a great time with that. Things have gone fairly smoothly with it. A lot of increase in membership that you'll see on the next slide. It's about a 9% increase, I think, from previous year when you're looking at the all. I mean, there are some that have fallen, but most of them have increased, and overall, we're really tickled with the 9% increase in membership. That next slide is really just a graphic of the data that was on the previous slide, but it does let you kind of look at individual ones over the past 5 years to see kind of how they've increased or decreased. And for the most part, we've done a really good job of increasing. And I contribute that to Robin and her team, and well, really just all of OCTE, just getting the word out and staying relevant with it and communicating well with it. All right, I will pass it. Oh, well, does anybody have any questions?
Are there any questions for Tom? Seeing none, we will move on to the legislative update from Reagan Satterwhite.
Actually, we're gonna go to Beth Engel first for her
my
division.
Okay, let's go to Beth.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and we're so happy that everyone is in attendance today. So I'm going to bring some updates on some of our area technology centers. So the Kentucky Tech District of our 50 state operated area technology centers, they serve about 150 of Kentucky's local school districts, and they serve more than 26,000 of our local district students. The ATCs are having a great second semester of the 23-24 school year, and I'm very excited to bring you just a few of those successes today. So the first one I wanted to talk about is from Boone County Area Technology Center, and they were recently awarded a donation from Airgas, and I don't have any pictures of that because they're actually going to the school this week to put up the banner and make the official award. They're the only school out of 26 states that has received this very generous donation of $6,000 worth of welding supplies for our students that they're going to be furnishing there at Boone County Area Technology Center. So that's very exciting. At Bullitt County Area Technology Center, they work very closely, as all of our ATCs do, with their local business and industry partners to be able to provide authentic work-based learning experiences for their students. So one of their business and industry partners, Otto Kennington, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, they were unable to offer co-op or apprenticeship positions due to age restrictions that they have. A student has to be 18 years of age at a minimum to work there. But to help the Bullitt County ATC and their students provide the necessary training and get the skills that they need, Otto Kennington built and donated that programmable logic controller, or PLC, with an estimated value of over $20,000 and provided that to the school for their students. So that is very exciting. At Breckinridge County ATC, their health science students were given the opportunity to practice their skills on Mobile Force One. Now, this is a Health Force mobile unit that works very closely with Owensboro Health, and it brings some pretty exciting educational opportunities to the schools. They have full immersion virtual reality room, among other hands-on computer-based learning opportunities. So students got to experience Mobile Force One. At Garrett County ATC, this is pretty neat joint venture. The Garrett County High School District Special Education Outreach Coordinator Program partnered with Garrett County ATC to develop a resource guide that will help support exceptional learning and career and technical education pathways. So working together, they have identified and addressed barriers to appropriate placements of exceptional learners into CTE programs and pathways. This program has seen increased student successes, and they have reported that, of course, one key ingredient to achieving improved post-secondary outcomes for students with disabilities is collaboration between CTE and SPED professionals. Studies continually show that participation in high-quality CTE programs is a predictor of successful post-secondary outcome for all students. Specifically, the data shows that almost 62% of students with disabilities who concentrate in CTE in high school were employed full-time 2 years post-graduation, compared to only 40% of students with disabilities who did not concentrate in CTE. So that is some pretty substantial data, and we're very excited for that partnership. At Monroe County ATC, they collaborate yearly with the Monroe County High School to host senior student interviews. And business and industry partners, they volunteer, they come in to the school and they provide real-world interview experiences for those students. Representatives and owners of business and industry in that area, such as their industrial electrical contractors, Anderson Forestry Products, Monroe County Schools, Monroe County Medical Center, and Stevens Manufacturing came in actually this semester and provided these opportunities for students. Students did a great job, or the employer said they did a great job during their interviews, and they received praise from these interviewers. Students also received printed cover letters, resumes, and feedback forms at the conclusion of the event. At Russell County ATC, the welding senior students, this is a really neat project, participated in the Daughters of American Revolution Community Service Project. They chose to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the NASA shuttle program by designing and building a sculpture that stands 6 feet tall on an 8x8 sheet metal base. Mr. Aaron Woolham, the instructor, and his class dedicated over 100 hours to this project to honor art, trade, American ingenuity, and human progress. The Columbia mission patches that are seen in that photo were donated by Mr. Woolham's sister, who is a former security specialist in the United States Air Force, and they will stay permanently with the display. So OCTE is very proud of the extensive, engaging instruction and attained skills that our students are receiving at our state-operated area technology centers. And I would like to thank all the faculty and staff at our ATCs for providing these opportunities to Kentucky CTE students. So that is the ATC update. Do we have any questions?
Any questions for Beth? Apologies for overlooking you on the agenda. It is such an exciting part to hear about all these great stories, and I look forward to hearing more in the future.
Alisher has his hand up.
Thank you.
Hey, hello everyone. Thank you all for the presentation. I had a question for Tom on some of the numbers you shared. I was trying to digest it. Your membership increase for the TSA was dramatic. I was just curious what the interest was in the students to join that. You've had growth across, I think, all the memberships, but that one pretty much doubled. So I was wondering, is there more interest in technology now, and why? Just why the number pretty much doubled?
Well, could be on technology, but to be completely honest, I think it's because Mark Harold, our program consultant, and Andy Stevenson and Amanda Boggs, we hired on a new STEM consultant, which we're kind of moving some things around on positions there, but that team has done an outstanding job, fabulous job of being out, sharing all the great things going on in the programs that are existing programs, and other folks are coming on board. So I feel like, I mean, I know that feel like is not the right word to use there, but I feel like that has a great deal of weight to it.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Alisher, I think that's very intuitive of you that you picked up on that. And I think that's really indicative too of the world that we live in and the increase in technology and how it's, it's become such, it's routine for us now. And so it is incredible the work that they've done, but I really think it's a culmination of all of it. But the team that we have working on it has done an exceptional job.
And I'll add too, and of course, a growth in membership of TSA has come with it, a growth in our technology and engineering pathways across the state as well as aviation. So those two go hand in hand.
And Amanda Wickersham has put into the chat that she says, I can only speak for Fayette County, but the addition of the CTE funding has changed everything and increased participation. And Amanda, thank you for bringing that up, because you're absolutely right. I think people across the state, everywhere, are learning, or they're getting more in tune with CTE and understanding the relevance and the importance of it. So good point. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Any other questions out there? We love the dialogue. All right. Hearing none, I'm going to repeat myself. We are going to hear a legislative update from Reagan Satterwhite.
Thank you, Harmony. I am thrilled to be able to give a final update on a 2024 budget session that has now concluded. It was a very successful session, we feel like, for education policy in Kentucky, and specifically CTE policy. I'm going to talk about the specific CTE legislation, but first I just want to mention some other great things that happened this session. Mike Stone, a big shout out to the Kentucky Association of Career and Technical Education for all that your organization does, our organization does, to further career and technical education policy in the state. The Student Leadership Day that was hosted by KACTE in February was very successful and well attended. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe students that day were able to meet with over 40% of the legislative body during their visits with legislators that day.
At least.
At least, yeah, over 40%. It could have been, much more than that, but that in itself is very impressive. We had the governor sign a proclamation of February as CTE month. And we also had two CTE students, Zoe Washington and Alexandria Courtney, who gave presentations or testimonies to the House Education and Senate Education Committees. So that was a wonderful way to start off early this session. The 2024 biennium budget bill, so House Bill 6, did some great things for career and technical education. First, it kept the level of CTE supplemental funding at the same level as the 2022 biennium budget. And this is a great amount to have to provide to our CTE programs. And so $70 million each of the next fiscal years will be allocated to our local district CTE providers. House Bill 6 also provided $50 million specifically for area technology center renovations. The allocation amounts are capped at $10 million each, and so that will be divided up among multiple ATCs. I'm now the third person to mention that House Bill 6 funded our national pilot with the Army JROTC program. And so, yes, we are obviously very excited about this. House Bill 6 also provided a raise, a 3% raise in fiscal year 1 and another 3% raise in fiscal year 2 of the biennium for state employees. And so we did want to mention that because it includes our staff and our educators in our area technology centers, as well as KSB and KSD. There were no policy changes this session to dual credit. It's been a couple sessions now, several sessions in a row that we have had some changes. So we get to just sit tight on dual credit for the next year. Last meeting we had in November, we outlined a career and technical education funding proposal for this committee, but we did not yet have a bill number. That was introduced this session by Representative Bobby McCool, who is on our CTE Advisory Council, as House Bill 499. That bill did pass and will become effective on July 1st, 2024. As we outlined in that November meeting, that bill does several things for career and technical education funding and the way that it is allocated to districts in Kentucky. There is emphasis in this legislation on creating high quality career and technical education. Historically, the allocations have been solely based on student enrollment in programs. Going forward, the allocation calculations will be 60% based on enrollment in CTE programs and 40% based on performance indicators. The performance indicators are pulled directly from the 12 indicators of high quality CTE that Dr. Hargis showed in her State of Career and Technical Education update. So we know when schools implement those indicators that they are bettering their programs and bettering the opportunities for their students. The legislation also leverages federal funding. We don't want to leave any federal money on the table, and so it requires schools be eligible for federal Perkins funding in order to receive state funds. We, of course, work with districts to make sure that they can implement the requirements of Perkins 5. It also creates a CTE Innovation and Support Fund with the remaining 25% of funding from 4 local CTCs that were former state-operated centers. And so that support and innovation fund is something that we are looking at in how to support our local districts and our state-operated centers, both in technical assistance for implementing the high-quality indicators, as well as in some areas of innovation. Another good thing that the bill does is eliminate the mid-year adjustment. So schools will receive their allocation notifications by June 30, and that will be their final allocation. It will not change. In years past, they received an estimate by June 30, and then around Christmas, they received a different amount. And so we're very happy, and we know that's going to make it easier on schools to budget and plan for the upcoming year. This bill also allowed schools to apply to use funding at the middle school level, which we think could be a really good thing. If schools are communicating with their middle schools and the high school, and they're beginning that recruitment and that exploration process at the middle school level, and we see that there are some direct alignments between the middle school courses and the high school pathways, that would be a great use of funds, provided, as the bill says, that it does not come in a detrimental effect for secondary students in the programs at the high school level. Holly is actually going to walk us through the funding calculations and how those will be determined. So I'm going to hold off on any questions and then see if you have them after Holly goes through the calculations.
Thank you, Reagan. Welcome. My name is Holly Tracy, and I am the data manager for the Office of Career and Technical Education. As Reagan said, I'm going to be getting into the funding breakdown formula for everybody. Thank you. Okay, so the funding formula is going to be a 60-40 split. So 60% of the total pot of money is going to come from CTE enrollment, and then 40% is going to be based on incentives earned. So the incentives included, as Reagan mentioned, as the high quality indicators, we're going by 4 of them. So concentrator status, technical skills attainment, dual credit, and work-based learning. Next slide. All right, so I'm gonna focus on the 60% and then I'll focus on the 40%. So for the 60%, as I said, that is based on CTE enrollment. So we are getting that data out of TEDS. That is based on term 1 attend hours that are uploaded into TEDS every fall. There is a calculation involved in calculating attend hours into weighted full-time equivalency. So part of the calculation is high and general cost pathway weights that is linked here on the presentation. So a regular cost pathway would be worth 1 point. A high cost pathway is worth 1.5 points. So we do incorporate that into the calculation on pathways that are of higher cost that will require more money to fund. The 60% of the enrollment funding comes from grades 9 through 12. And the data is pulled, as I said, and I said in the fall, but there is a deadline every fall of November 15th for schools to get their term 1 attend hours uploaded into TEDS, and that is the data we're using to calculate the enrollment funding. All right, next slide. Okay, 40% comes from CTE incentives. So we have the first incentive, which is a concentrator. So a student who is concentrator status who earns 2 credits or more in a pathway. Next is technical skills attainment, where a student can earn a CTE EOP or an industry certificate. And then we have dual credit, where a student must earn a C or higher in an approved CTE dual credit course. And then lastly, we have work-based learning. This means completing 300 hours or more in a successful work-based learning experience. Must be a co-op or internship or apprenticeship. I do want to make an important note that course code 901005 will not be considered as an approved work-based learning course code for CTE funding. This course code is applicable for accountability, but for funding purposes, this is a course code that is not a CTE course code. Therefore, it will not be used in work-based learning data collection for the funding model. So a student can earn multiple incentives. If a student is a concentrator, earns an EOP, earns dual credit, and completes work-based learning, that student is getting credit for all 4 indicators. And that will be reflected in the funding. Includes only grade 12 students, so which will get me, I think, into an example. You can go to the next one, that'll just flow into my next slide. Thank you. So for the incentives part, we are using the last complete reporting year. So for example, for 25-26 funding, we're using, at that point in time, the most recent reporting school year will be 23-24. So we're using incentives from 23-24, and then we are also using attend hours that are uploaded into TEDS as of November 15th of 2024. So, and a different example that is more applicable to what's happening currently, if we're doing data for the 24-25 school year, then we're using incentives from 22-23 graduating cohort, and then attend hours uploaded into TEDS as of November 15th, 2023. So there is, I understand where there is some confusion, but we have tried to clear that up, at least in our FA work-based learning, or I'm sorry, our funding FAQ that we have just put out there to kind of give an example of the years and the data that is involved in the formula. All right, next slide. Okay, very important. I think I see a hand raised.
Marcus Rogers.
Okay.
Yes, I saw a message come through on the chat that was not through me, but whoever that individual was, I think their brain is going the same place that my brain went. Just a logistical question with the 40% portion. I noticed that there was four bullet points. Are they all 4 equally weighted as basically 10%, 10%, 10%, and 10% into the total 100% calculation?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and to follow up, so hypothetically speaking, if a student were to take one course in a pathway, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, pass all 4 with an A, complete an industry certification or pass the EOP and graduate, but none of those courses were dual credit and none of those courses were work-based learning, that student would only receive 20 of the 40%. Am I getting that correct?
That would be correct. So,
okay, follow-up
yeah.
question on that, and then I'll be done and I'll go back to mute and let you guys